being the most feared individual throughout the Republic for the use of planetary bombardments and bioweapons. Something that drove both sides to call for peace talks, only to be scuttled by Grievous by orchestrating the bombing of the Senate District reactor. This was followed by the CIS attempting to take the mid-rim world of Naboo. With the outer rim almost completely under control, Naboo could provide a crucial staging area that would help push to the core. Dooku had convinced Gungan Minister Rish Lu to use a mind control amulet to bring Boss Leone under his control. With this device, they were able to get him to declare war on their human neighbors, and he begun rallying his troops to take Theed. But Skywalker could sense the power of this odd necklace, and when the boss snaps out of it, he goes to confront the traitorous minister. But Rish Lu was given a contingent of commando droids, who leaped down and were able to keep the Jedi occupied. And in this fight, the boss was stabbed, while the traitor escaped. Luckily, Boss Leone survived, but he was unconscious. Padme and Anakin noticed that Jar Jar had an uncanny similarity to the boss, and they try and use this to learn more of the Separatist plot. Upon Grievous's landed C-9979, the general asks why the boss has suddenly changed his mind. Jar Jar tells General Tarpals to contact Padme, and the senator tells him that he must use this opportunity to capture the elusive Grievous. When he finally gets tired of waiting for the Gungan general to return, Grievous storms out to find Tarpals standing with his Gungan troops, saying that the droid army was deactivated. But the cyborg is unimpressed, ignites his two lightsabers, and parries the Gungan's stun pike while moving to engage Tarpals, eventually working through his defense and spearing the enemy general with the weapon of his own people.
How does it feel to die?
Not die. Sacrifice!
Tarpals knew he could not outfight the four-armed, saber-spinning cyborg, but he could use Grievous's lust for murder to trap him. After being impaled by the spear, it was followed up by a volley of boombas that short-circuited his cyborg body. The greatest warlord in the galaxy was captured by the Gungans. Dooku was hiding out in Rish Lu's secret lab when he was contacted by Darth Sidious, who was already aware of the general's capture.
General Grievous is a critical part of my plan for the Clone Wars. He must not remain captive.
The Count would instruct Lu to lead Skywalker here, and Dooku would finally capture the Chosen One by using an overwhelming force of specialized Magna Guards. Sidious's knowledge of the romance between the Jedi and Senator would prove invaluable, as this bond would be exploited to free Grievous from his ion bubble restraints. The Republic and Jedi Order left in complete shock that they would have to let the number 2 most wanted individual in the galaxy just walk right out of custody. The general would follow this up with a successful capture of AUDIBLE after an intense space battle and boarding of her Venator. Hoping to put her through the Eth Koth torture video treatment, he brings her to the bridge when his flagship discovers a pirate vessel that he felt should be cleared from this sector. Luckily for AUDIBLE, Plo Koon's fleet was able to discover the location of the Providence, and at the sight of 5 Venators opening fire, Grievous knew he had to abandon ship. In the next weeks, Darth Sidious would test Dooku's loyalty by having him betray his favorite assassin, Ventress. Sidious feared her growing power, the pair that Dooku and her would make, and in an instant her life would forever change. This brought incredible joy to Grievous, who always had to keep an eye on her rise, the Force user that would insult him, and who had a different connection with Dooku due to their Force abilities and shared falling from the Jedi Order. A connection that always made Grievous worried that he would be the one to be betrayed. But after the attempt to kill the assassin, she returned to Dooku's palace with the Night Sister witches. This was the closest Dooku had come to death for a long time. And for this, the entire coven of witches on Dathomir had to be burnt to ash. And Grievous was more than happy to carry this out.
Wipe the witches out. All of them. Their illusions do not frighten me.
Yes, Master.
A full planetary invasion with thousands of droids and dozens of tanks would all be transported via several of the massive C-9979 landing craft. Bombers would eliminate the witches outside of their main temple, followed by ranks of droids that pushed through the dark forests. As they pressed closer to the Coven, Grievous ordered the defoliator tanks to make their approach. Night Sister magic would unleash an army of undead, but the high-tech weaponry was consuming their sacred woods, burning away the trees that contained the bodies of their long-dead sisters. Ventress used her knowledge of CIS vehicles and weaponry to command an AAT and take out a nearby defoliator, as she led her undead troops to Grievous's command ship. When the general came down the ramp to meet her, both tell their forces to stand down. Ventress then offers to settle this invasion with a one-on-one duel, hoping to play on his sense of martial virtue.
Then fight me alone. Prove you're the greater warrior.
The dual red blades of a Sith crashed against the blue and green of the stolen blades of the Jedi, and Grievous was able to dominate this Force wielder for some time. But eventually her skills found the weakness in his guard. Grievous is knocked to the ground, and as Ventress raised her sabers, he would be forced to choose between trying to maintain the honor of a Kaleesh warrior or to survive. But his warrior virtue had died off along with his old flesh. Before the blades could come down, he ordered his troops to fire, the B2's powerful blasters requiring her immediate attention to evade and deflect. While the undead army springs to Ventress's defense, an endless barrage of bodies hurling themselves at the cyborg, requiring all of his limbs and sabers to keep them from bringing him down. In this insane battle of droids versus zombies, Grievous gets a holo transmission from his master.
You must stop Mother Talzin before she kills me.
On these orders, he leads his troop in to rush the Night Sister Temple. Following the trail of Green Ichor to their coven, Grievous is unfazed by the swarms of arrow-firing witches that made up the last line of defense. He stormed through the ancient structure, stabbing any witches he came across, and when he finds the head shaman Daka, who is performing a magic ritual, he stomps right up to her and executes the old witch, immediately freeing his master. In what now seems like another lifetime, Kaiman Jai Shalal would have sought guidance and revered shamans like this old woman, the Night Sisters in many ways being similar to the Kaleesh. Upon her death, the reanimated sisters were back in their slumber, and with these undead reinforcements, the witches were no match for the overwhelming numbers of high-tech Force. Grievous would then strike at Mother Talzin as a volley of blaster bolts came from commando droids, but her connection to the dark magics transformed her into a fading green mist. Ventress would be the only known survivor at this time. Falling from hopes of becoming the second most powerful person in the galaxy, she had been beaten by an army of mindless droids, led by that monstrous cyborg, weeping as her clan mother appeared to her in the form of a spirit to tell her that she must leave Dathomir. Sometime later we see that with Ventress out of the picture, Grievous was not worried about her temporary pawn and fellow Dathomirian Savage Opress. But Dooku was concerned about this rogue element that was on the loose without a clan of Night Sisters to contain him.
You consider him a threat?
He is a threat to all of us.
And though Grievous would not have a run-in with Savage, he was far from done with his dealing with Dathomirians.